Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Alwyn here. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day as always. Couple stimulus updates today, so let's get right into it. But before we get into today's video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. So the government is still working on getting the checks for the $600 stimulus package out to the American people, but they are planning ahead for the third round of stimulus. The jobs report shows that the U.S. has lost over 140,000 jobs and over 11 million American workers are out of work. People who are still awaiting their second stimulus check include people with Turbotax, H&R Block, and Jackson Hewitt. Turbotax has emailed their customers who have still not received their second stimulus check. The IRS actually directly sent the money to Turbotax in order for them, Turbotax, to distribute the money instead of the money going directly to the people's bank accounts. Turbotax expects to correct the error and deposit the money into people's bank accounts relatively quickly. H&R Block had the exact same issue, and they will also be correcting this issue soon. The payments are processing in batches. The IRS has already sent out over 100 million stimulus checks, and the remaining will be sent out in the next few days in direct deposit or by mail. Labor advocacy groups are now pushing for monthly stimulus checks and unemployment benefits of $600 a week, which is up from the $300 which is occurring right now in the $600 stimulus bill. They want President-elect Joe Biden to go big in the next stimulus package that may be passed when he's in office. They are saying that the jobs report is well proof that the big stimulus check is a needed form of emergency relief. The letter criticizes the current $600 stimulus package as the one-time $600 stimulus checks and the 11 weeks of unemployment benefits will not help the American families to the extent that they need. They go on to say that after months of the Americans waiting for a deal to be passed, over 9 months, what has happened, we finally get a one-time check of $600. They say that there has to be more benefits. Biden has promised multiple times that the current stimulus check, whatever would be passed, would just be a down payment for what he and his office will pass once he's in office. Biden said during the Georgia runoff elections that if the Democrats are to control the Senate, which now they do, right now they're gonna, soon to be controlling the presidency, they already controlled the Senate, and they also control the House, so they control all three. Then what that would mean essentially is that we would get $2,000 stimulus checks passed and immediately out the door to the American families. Some analysts believe that Biden wants to pass a standalone bill for the $2,000 stimulus checks first, and then go to passing a more comprehensive package later on. The leaders of the Democrats, both Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, are demanding that Vice President Mike Pence and members of President Trump's cabinet to remove President Trump from office. Some people believe that it would be a waste of time and resources and that it is unnecessary to remove President Trump from office. Others say that it must be done. If not, more acts of violence may come if President Trump does not declare that there was a free and fair election. Cabinet members are discussing the removal of President Trump. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Secretary Mike Pompeo are both talking about it. Nancy Pelosi, in the meantime, said that she would move on to impeaching President Donald Trump if the White House fails to act in this matter. Pelosi called for Trump's immediate resignation from office and blames President Trump for the riots that occurred in D.C. She says that if Trump does not resign, then Congress will move forward next week the impeachment reading and order up a bill to be written which would have Vice President Mike Pence and other cabinet officials remove President Trump using the 25th Amendment. And if you want more information about the 25th Amendment, go check out my last video, which was yesterday, and I go into a lot more detail about the 25th Amendment, what it is, and how they can enact or invoke the actual amendment. Mike Pence has resisted the idea of invoking the 25th Amendment. If he resists, a group of 3 congressmen will introduce the articles of impeachment as early as this Monday. The articles accuses President Trump of willingly inciting violence against the U.S. government, and Trump caused the serious harm to the democratic system and to the people of the U.S. Some people argue against the impeachment and believe that it is not a good use of resources, especially given that President Trump will be leaving his office. Him and his administration will be leaving for office on January 20th. One of the people that were shot and killed were conservative extremists who has shown a past history of a ton of violence through their social media platforms. Now, Twitter has permanently banned President Trump's Twitter account. They will not let President Trump create any Twitter accounts, use his old Twitter account, or let other people on behalf of his end act or post for him. So they are very strict and they have taken severe measures. Facebook has a ban on President Trump's account until January 20th when he's leaving for office. Remember, Twitter had a 12-hour ban initially, which was when the DC riots took place, but now, after a couple of his postings, which we'll talk about here, he is now permanently banned from the entire Twitter platform. So that is huge, because I think he had over 80 million followers or something like that. So this is what Twitter said. After close review of recent tweets from @RealDonaldTrump account and the context around them, specifically how they are received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. In the context of horrific events this week, it is clear on Wednesday that the additional violations of Twitter's rules would potentially result in this very course of action. However, we made it clear going back years that these accounts are not above our rules entirely and cannot use Twitter to incite any form of violence, among other things. We will continue to be transparent around our policies and the enforcement. President Trump's statement that he will not be attending the inauguration is being received by a number of his supporters as further confirmation that the election was not legitimate, and is seen as him disavowing his previous claims made via 2 tweets. The second tweet may also serve as encouragement to those potentially considering violent acts that the inauguration would be a safe target as he will not be attending it. The mention of his supporters having a giant voice long into the future and that they will not be disrespected or treated in any way, shape, or form unfairly, exclamation point, exclamation point, is being interpreted as a further indication that President Trump does not plan to facilitate an orderly transition, and instead he plans to continue to support, empower, and shield those who believe that he won the election. Twitter finally goes on to state that plans for future armed protests have already begun proliferating on and off Twitter, including a proposed secondary attack on the U.S. Capitol and state capitol buildings on January 17th, 2021. Hopefully you guys all learned something new and enjoyed the video. I thank you all so much for your continued support. Make sure to drop a like down below. It does help my channel out tremendously. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on those post notifications so that way you're aware of when I do upload my next video. Comment down below. Till next time. Peace.